Welcome, welcome to another episode of The Way In. I'm here. I'm joined with my man Sugar Ray. How are you today, bro?
I'm doing all right, thank you, man. Just going through the week is,
Week's
midweek,
done.
so just pushing through. So fight week is upon us.
I
Saturday
mean,
is upon us.
you said it.
So
This is what we're here for. Fight week. We've been waiting. We had Joshua Usyk. It's now time. This is our preview. It's Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3. I mean, how excited, just quickly before we touch into anything else, how excited are you about this fight?
I don't know if excited is the word, more intrigued. Like the excitement left when, the match got rescheduled. The excitement left when this fight even got made instead of the Joshua fight. So I'm more just intrigued of what the next step is. It's been a whole logjam ever since Fury backed out of that last fight. And then there's been more things thrown into the spanner with Joshua losing. So it'll just be intriguing to see whoever wins this, how the division goes forward. So, man, what a crazy year and a half it's been since Fury first beat Wilder.
I mean, you said it. Fury first beat Wilder, but I want to just do a quick little history lesson on how we got to fight three before we talk about fight three. If you're good with that,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
first fight where I think all of us can say that Wilder gave Fury the opportunity that Fury needed, and Wilder, for me personally, didn't think. Are you kind of on that same wavelength?
No, oh, I'm definitely up with that. Listen, that statement was, let me beat Fury whilst he's out of shape and make myself look good beating a former world champion.
And it ended in a draw. Some people said Fury won that fight, but
For
I
sure.
was I was one of the few people that was okay with a draw. There was a lot of people that actually shocked about that. The fact that
I was
and
okay with it, but it was the draw is pushing it at most.
the only reason I say this, and I said this like off air as well, is something Max Kellerman said on one of the fights. He goes, "If a round is close, one fighter gets it over the other. Is that unfair for the fighter who you may not have wanted to win to get that round?" Well, I'm paraphrasing, but he kind of said it that way. Once I
Yeah.
got that, it kind of made me understand. Okay, that makes sense. So we go from a draw, we get fight two. Fury wins that comfortably, and then you have all the excuses from Wilder, and we all think Wilder Fury is put to one side. We're here for Joshua Fury 3. I mean Joshua and Fury to go. Then the court of arbitration steps in, and they say we've got Wilder versus Fury coming in. I guess just quickly before we touch on the entire preview, did you expect us to have a third fight in this, or did you think we were on the road to Joshua versus Fury?
Yes and no. Yes, because that contract stipulation was always there. So at some point, it was going to get triggered. So whether it was going to be triggered after we got the winner of AJ first Fury, but the more I saw Eddie Hearn working hard to make this match happen and the other promoters just chilling, I had my suspicions. Like I said, previous episodes, that's when I openly started going at Fury and his team because I knew something was fishy, was going on from the get go. And yeah, they called me a madman. And then, just like clockwork, what happened. It showed Fury found a way out of the rematch. And that's why even this match, I don't know what Fury's coming into the ring because as spectacular as he is physically, mentally sometimes he can be his own worst enemy. It appears anyway, in regards to a lot of his biggest fights, he feels like he needs to. It appears anyway that he needs to be the underdog to hype himself up. When he's been the favorite going into fights, he's not always looked as the favorite. So I don't know if that's a mental block on his side as to why he can't go in there as the favorite. Because I even think that all the stuff that's happened now, he's probably telling himself in his head that he's the underdog, just so he can give himself that mental edge. Because what a lot of people don't take into consideration that is, it's not hard. Sorry, it's hard to become champion. It's harder to stay champion, And that's why when Anthony Joshua went on the run that he did, you got to give him credit, because a lot of people don't understand the responsibility that comes with being a champion. And I feel like with Tyson Fury, he's coming into that point where it's like, no, it's not every day you have to be the challenger. Sometimes you are going to be the champion that's favorite. And whether he can shoulder the responsibility and the expectation of being a champion is a whole nother thing. So, well, until we get to that point, we'll get there.
So it's interesting that you say that, because this is the first fight that Tyson Fury will have as a champion, where he's going to defend his belt. And that's something you've touched on multiple times throughout multiple pods, where you say he's never defended a title. How has he got this this, I guess, accolade of being the best when he's not done
Yeah.
this? And for me, I guess I want to ask you first. You've touched just on Fury itself. In terms of the overall fight, how do you see it playing out? Because I want to take your views first, then I'm happy to give my answers. Where do you see this
Yeah.
fight, I guess, won and lost for either of them?
I honestly think this is Fury's fight to lose. Unless Wilder shows us something that he's been working in training camp that we just haven't seen from him, I can't see how Fury doesn't win this. It's his fight to lose. He's got a weight advantage. He's got the skill advantage. Obviously, he's just got to basically dodge the missiles of hands that are Deontay Wilder's fist. But once again, it comes into that situation of what Tyson Fury are we getting into this fight? Because there was the rumor that he didn't have COVID, which was also backed up by the fact that he was at the UFC the next day that was announced. But then what was the rumor is that Tyson Fury wasn't in the greatest shape and he was getting that work in fight camp. So they came up with this whole elaborate story to delay the fight so they can have more time for him to work. And that also coincides with his father, John Fury, being furious with how his son's been moving of late. So if that's the case, do we finally have a changed Tyson Fury that's going to come into this fight as the person that he needs to be? Or will it be a case of Wilder goes in there and, you know, physically he may not be the better fighter, but mentally Wilder's more tuned in, and then he clocks Tyson Fury. And listen, man, Tyson Fury's been flawed, but Wilder has flawed Tyson Fury twice. So, and the second time he barely got up, which you have to give him credit for, but you don't want to keep on taking too many of them. And if Wilder becomes a smarter fighter, as he's implying that he is now, he'll go and go. Listen, those type of punches he throws, if he throws them to the body, who knows what damage that can cause. So it'll be interesting. But like I said, in all honesty, it's Tyson Fury's fight to lose. How about yourself?
So this is where I'm going to be the guy that goes with Wilder. I just personally think what I saw in the first fight, less of the second, because the second, I look at it, because he got the cut, it kind of dampened the fight a bit. Like, you had a target area, if that makes sense, because it's visible. In the first fight, a lot of people said, oh, Wilder, he can't go 12 rounds with Tyson Fury. It's not possible. He showed he was able to go 12 rounds, regardless of whether you believed it was a draw, whether you believe Fury won, whether some people still go with the slow count on the when Wilder knocked him out and knocked him down on the 12. He showed that he can do 12 rounds with Tyson Fury. And then after the second fight, we've talked about this mentality of a boxer who doesn't want to lose.
Yeah.
It was like that. He said that. He goes, don't pull me out. Unless I'm down and out, I don't care. I will continue.
Yeah, spirit of a fighter.
I do personally think with how both characters are as well, as much as Fury has the world title riding on this and stuff, he's able to deflect that. He's able to go out. If he loses, I think we both kind of have an agreement where he'll probably retire if he goes out. And whereas for Wilder, if he loses this based on his actual persona that he created, it will be a lot worse for him. And I don't think Deontay Wilder, in the mind frame he's in, which we're going to touch on Wilder a bit more as well, and how he has been recently, I can't see him, especially being in America again, going out and losing. And that's why, like, I have said, well, I'll give my prediction right then how this will end, as in
Mhm.
like an ethical thing. But I do side with Deontay Wilder, and I do think there's a possibility we are going to see a different Wilder, but we're still going to have that fearfulness of his knockout power. So I'm
Of
still
course.
Wilder's there.
I honestly think that Wilder might go in there and employ the tactic on Fury that AJ should have done on Usyk, and that's go in there. He knows he's a puncher, he's not a boxer. So go in there. You don't box Tyson Fury, you fight Tyson Fury. That's what you need to go in there and do. And one thing about Wilder, he doesn't second guess who he is as a boxer, or should I say a puncher. He
Yeah,
knows he's a puncher. He's not gonna go in there and think, do you know what? Let me try. Don't get me wrong. You have to go in there with new tactics, but he's not gonna go out there and try out slick
yeah,
Fury. He's gonna go in there and maybe place your shots better where in certain places. But he also knows don't go in there when Fury's doing a shoulder roll and everything. He might just be like step off a bit, bam, straight to the body. And with the type of punching power he has, he's shown that he can carry into the later rounds as well. So that's the scary thing. And I think what's even more scary with him, like I said about the whole tactics of being a puncher, he's okay with losing rounds because he said himself, I don't need to be perfect for 12 rounds. I need to be perfect for one moment. And that's one of the scariest people to put your guard down for one moment and give that to him. So it'll be interesting to see. That's for sure.
So we've had our I guess previews of where we think the fight can be won or lost. Now we want to know from you guys. If you are enjoying the content, we do need you to like, share, and subscribe on our YouTube page. Follow us on all our socials. Instagram page is there, underscore the way in underscore, Twitter underscore the way in underscore the way in underscore, sorry. But it's a mouthful, but you get it. Like it's all there. You can see
Hella
it.
underscores, but it's
Honestly,
all there.
we want conversations about this. Let's stay on Wilder. Going
Mhm.
into this fight, obviously he's let go of his original coach, Freeland, and now he's brought in Malik Scott. In terms of what you could possibly see as a change for Wilder, not a drastic
Mhm.
change, what do you think we might see that could be a bit of a shock that what people aren't expecting?
I think it's just going to be slight adjustments. So even throughout the whole fight of his first fight, I was watching the fight with Andy and his family, and I remember his dad even saying a lot of the time, "Go for the body." Why is he not going for the body? Like, stop. Yes, we understand you can knock him out, but especially back then, it was like Fury had lost a lot of weight, meaning that he still had a bit of excess skin on him. He still was like at that point where he wasn't at his full fitness. I remember his dad was pointing out, at that type of moment, you're meant to go for the body because it's still soft. You can still tell that if you hit him in the body, it will hurt. Not that it's going to be easy, but with Wilder, it's like you've got the ability to do it. So maybe this third fight, I think they're going to tweak his technique of just being like, instead of just head hunting all the time, go for some feints, go to the body. But it's almost like you got to refine who he already is. You don't want to turn him too technical because at this stage of your career, you're not changing someone's spots. They
Yeah.
are who they are. So I think what you're just going to see is a more refined version of Wilder. Just go in there, be the punch that you are, but you just don't need to go gung ho for the head all the time. Sometimes go
And
for the body. Sometimes you're going to see a lot of dark arts in this fight. I'll tell you that much. You are going to see a lot of dirty tactics on Wilder's part. And guess what? That's what you have to do sometimes. You got to go in there, be the puncher, especially the fact that Fury's got the advantage of being heavier than him. So Wilder's got to find different ways to leverage his strengths. And I think that's what this coach is that's going to come here and do. Just try to reassure him. And I think what's scary about Wilder as well is that with the mentality that he has, he's a bit delusional, but sometimes to be great, you have to have that bit of delusion in you. So with Mark Breland, I think it was a clash of yes, Wilder's being delusional, but Wilder, you need to listen. Whereas you got to get that right mixture of let him be delusional, but you have to. No, honestly, you got to let him be delusional so he doesn't lose his confidence.
Like
But
make him believe what he's saying. Like
yes, you got to reverse
keep
psychology
it
the
straight.
situation. You got to use reverse psychology and basically get him to be like, listen, you're the greatest, you're this, you're that. But do you know what I think can help you? Instead of saying, Wilder, you're wrong, you need to do this. Just be like, yo, what you're doing is fine, but we also need you to do this. I feel like that is where Wilder can benefit is if they just make him believe his own hype, but say it in a way that he can jump on board and listen to them.
So it's interesting that you talked about like mentality and psychological side of things, because for me, like when you have boxing, and I remember like Floyd used to say it, he would hype, he would do the trash talking because
Yeah,
other guy can't hype the fight like he can.
yeah,
With
for
these
sure.
two, you both have like Wilder's got his speak it, believe it, receive it. He'll talk about chapters from the Bible. Tyson Fury, the way he speaks,
Yeah,
and
big dosser.
you big Dusser, just like the way they both speak, it kind of complements each other in terms of, I guess,
Yeah,
a psychological battle between them both. I know, like Wilder's gone in, and I mean not Wilder, so Fury. Whenever he goes, I remember the Klitschko face to faces. He would get into his head to the point where you just look at Klitschko and think you can't beat this guy mentally. Is Wilder at a similar point, or do you think there could be a
yeah.
little psychological balance between them both?
I think what Wilder done correctly in their previous press conference is that he just didn't entertain Fury. And I feel like that in turn got Fury back. Like it basically reversed it on Fury because Fury, I think, gets a high off of knowing that he got his opponent annoyed or knowing that he's got one up on his opponent. Whereas with Wilder not entertaining it, you could see Fury was a bit like it's almost like Fury had to convince himself that he got to his head when it's just like you didn't. Wilder just realized there's no point in him trying to out talk Fury. There isn't because love him or hate him, Fury will say some funny things and you're just gonna be there burning. So instead Wilder was just like, let me put my headphones on, I'm not gonna entertain you. And it's like he just has tunnel vision.
Yeah.
So mentally, I think that also helped Wilder. And like I said with Fury, it's like the physical capability is always there. It's just a matter of can you stay out of your own way? And I shouldn't have to throw out the disclaimer, but I'll throw it out there anyway. This is not in relation to obviously he's had mental health issues in terms of like depression and such. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother subject. I'm strictly speaking about fighting psychology because, like I said, there's been other fights like the Otto Wallim fight and the previous one before that where he was the favorite. These are after the draws they had, after, not the draws, after the draw they had with Deontay Wilder. He had two fights, if I'm correct. Was it two or the one?
It was one. It was
I
only
remember you
Otto.
fought Otto Wallen anyway.
I think
Yeah.
that was the only one because he had the tune-up before Wilder, then he had Wilder, then he had, I think,
Was that
Otto Wallim.
Schwartz, the tune-up before Wilder?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Otto Wallen, basically Otto Wallen fight is the one I'm thinking of when he got the cut and everything.
Yeah.
And obviously he's changed trainers since then and such. But the same principle stays is that the guy went in there as the favorite. And then it was almost like he just couldn't motivate himself to get to the point where you have to, take the fight properly. And I feel like that's what a lot of people underestimate is that when you are champion, you do get to that point of the whole like, do you get too comfortable? And we've seen it many times with champions before. The famous marvelous Marvin Hagler quote, to paraphrase anyway, because you can't be hard and wake up in silk sheets. Obviously, shout out to Conor Ben because he's trying to break that
Yeah,
stereotype. But
I
for a
hear that a
lot
lot.
of yeah, but for a lot of other fighters, that is the truth. You do get that level of comfort where it's just like, are you still gonna work hard? I think sometimes we see anomalies like Floyd Mayweather and think that's the normal. The way Floyd is motivated to still work out is even till this day, you still see videos of Floyd working out in boxing because he's just unnatural. Like it's crazy to be that driven, or Bernard Hopkins. But not everyone is wired like that.
Yeah.
And I think with Tyson Fury, he's definitely not wired in a way of you can see he lets himself go when he's not fighting. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's why I'm always worried. You're always going to be worried about what Tyson Fury is coming into the fight.
And I want to just keep on boxing and heavyweight trilogies and stuff like that. Obviously, with this being a trilogy, in terms of, I guess, rivalry rankings, because it is a rivalry. Once you've had 3 fights, we've had obviously looking down the line, you had Tyson, Holyfield, Ali Foreman, Frazier. Okay, we're part, I guess you could say, new generation in terms of heavyweights, because I know like a lot of older people will say it's not comparative at all. But in terms of a ranking, where are we ranking this? We've had a draw, we've had a win for Fury. Where are we looking for fight 3 in terms of where are we putting this as a collective? Is it up there, or is it still a long way to go before it becomes one of them? I guess
I can only judge it once the fight's happen, and the reason why I say that is because the other rivalries that you mentioned, to be honest, going into their last bouts, they was more hyped. Whereas this one, because of the circus that's followed it, it's kind of lessened the polish that was on it before, and especially the whole fact of like it took the AJ Fury fight being made to finally activate the clause for this fight to happen, and it's just like, whereas the Tyson and Holyfield, for example, that first fight was very much hype. Going into the second fight, it was just like the whole world was watching. Whereas this fight is kind of a bit lackluster. I've said it before, like they were waiting for AJ's fight to happen for them to start promoting. Like it's a bit cheap. Like why wait for AJ's fight and etc. But it is what it is. So depending on how this fight ends is when you can rank it. So, and I'm not going to bring up the Ali's and Foreman because I'm not going to act like I'm the biggest boxing historian and know what the comparisons are. You're not gonna. I'm not gonna get caught out saying outrageous stuff just so that because I don't want to go to boxing events in the future and someone's just there like that's that prick that compared Ali and Foreman to Wilder and Fury. So nah.
Do you know what? Like, I'm happy you said that because as much as it's, I guess, the boxing good thing to say or the consensus thing to say, like Ali, Frazier, Foreman, all them guys were the best. When I see people who are younger than me saying it, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, how are you making that judgment? Not in a horrible way. I understand if you've got family members.
No. Sometimes you need to be in a horrible way. Listen, Roger Mayweather said it best. Listen, the late great Roger Mayweather said it best. Some people don't know shit about boxing. That is the truth.
Like you can't make a decision because there's a
Roger said it.
Thing about it.
Roger said it. Even if I don't know the most, but the thing with me, a lot of the time, if I don't know, I'll put my hand up and say, "Listen, I'm not gonna touch that because that's way too big a name to just be speaking so flippantly on it." So there's a lot of people that will like flippantly say those type of things, and it's just like either it's for the clicks or either they just don't respect what came before them. So I ain't gonna disrespect that. I go to boxing events, so I don't want no one to be picking me out saying, "Rah, he said this."
So I'm just before we give our final predictions, there's just one thing I want to touch on, and that's, I guess, we've previewed the fight, we previewed what could possibly happen. On a hypothetical aftermath, Bob Arum basically said Usyk should be the guy that Fury faces, and it shouldn't be Joshua for Fury. When you look at, we've been critical of Bob Arum in the past. He's made a Crawford and Porter fight.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Reluctantly. Let's not.
It's been made.
Reluctantly.
But it's been made to get Crawford out.
Yeah.
Is he looking way too much into the future to be saying anything like that, considering what we've spoke about today, where
he's a promoter, so he understands. It's promoter talk. it's just promoter talk. He has to say what he needs to say to get the eyes on him. And I honestly think that Aram's at the point of his career. You know, he's lived a long life and he just doesn't give a F no more. So he's just gonna say whatever because he's just like F it. I've done years of these big fights under my name. I just don't give a F no more. Like even the way he speaks on his fighters, any like other promoter in his position wouldn't do that. But he's just at a point where I just don't think he doesn't mind that much. And I feel like one, they're not gonna make it. If Usyk, listen, let me tell you something. If Fury wins, he's not fighting Usyk. At least not straight away anyway. Because you can even see the way that Fury's responded to the way that to AJ losing. He's upset.
Yeah.
He's realized, oh crap. Look at all the money that we've missed out on. Even though, oh yeah, all that fighting man stuff is nice and everything. Yeah. Listen, Fury likes the money. Let's not get this twisted. He says all that fighting man stuff to get people thinking, oh yeah, he's one of us, and you know he gave his whole purse to charity, even though no one's still not seen anything from that. But Fury's upset that AJ lost that fight. So let me tell you something. The only way Fury was to face Usyk is if Usyk was to beat AJ a second time, and even then, Fury might even relinquish the belt just so he can fight AJ for the big paycheck.
I was just gonna say, I think if anything, if Usyk beats Joshua again, I
Hmm.
don't think Fury takes that fight. I think he looks at him and he thinks that is the cream of the crop. Like as much as
Oh, for
you
sure.
believe in
He
yourself,
is the cream of the crop right now.
he is. And then if you double up and you beat him as convincing as you did again, I don't think Fury takes that fight. I don't personally think Fury, because we say about styles make fights. Both guys are quite slick. If anything, I'll go one
Yeah.
step further and say Usyk is more slicker than Tyson Fury.
He
And
definitely is.
yeah,
There's no like there's no hesitation in saying that. Usyk
so
is the better boxer.
I wouldn't, if I was Fury looking at what I've done, I guess, in my career, I hold that Ring Magazine title till I retire. I don't relinquish that. I've seen so many people like you not just having him as just the heavyweight champ. No, you've got to put the Ring Magazine bit next
Yeah,
to
of
it.
course. Of
But
course.
if he beats Wilder, I'll say this on record personally, which we're gonna
Yeah.
touch now anyway. I think he retires, regardless of the outcome of the fight. Personally, I believe he will retire at the end of this.
Ooh. I think to go off of that, I think he retires only if AJ doesn't beat Fury. I mean, say if AJ doesn't beat Usyk, that's
Okay.
when he definitely retires. But because I feel like AJ's his golden goose and he knows it.
Mm.
Because whether he loses or wins to AJ, he would retire. That's his like retirement check right there. That's why I said he was so upset when AJ lost because he realized, crap, that's my retirement check. That is win or lose. Fury would take that fight against AJ, and he would be like, cool. If he wins, I'm the greatest of all time. Everyone leave me alone. If he loses, he will just say, well, it's been fun. I
Goodbye.
got the money. I overachieved. Goodbye. So
And
listen, man,
what
that's
about
just the way I see
Wilder?
it.
If Wilder loses just quickly, then before we give our
Yeah.
final predictions, where
Mm.
does he go? Like, because I'm looking at his persona. I don't know how you recover where you've had three fights with the same man and you've not
Yeah.
been able to win one. Whereas before you came into this, I believe it was 40 and 0, 41 and 0,
Yeah.
whatever it was, and you've gone three fights and you can't beat him. Where does he go from here then?
I think Wilder, let's put it like this: all roads lead back to AJ. All the jokes can run about AJ, all of
Yeah.
that stuff. All roads lead back to AJ. And what I mean by that is, even if Wilder loses, he is going to hope that after AJ tries to unify the belts, if AJ unifies the belts, he knows that his name will always be attached to AJ. And he's probably going to hope and pray that AJ win all your fights so that you can call me out. I think he might even call out AJ even if he loses and just say, listen, let's see who the best man is between us two, and then that person can then catapult themselves to face whoever the champ is at the time. So the real thing is, it's not the road to undisputed, it's the road to AJ, because cash rules everything around me. Cream get the dollar. I mean, Cream get the money. Dollar bills your word to Wu Tang.
I mean, the fact that we've done a few Wilder preview, but you put AJ in, I'll give you that. I'll give you. I don't know how you've done that, but just finally, I want a prediction from you. Who wins and how does it happen?
My head is telling me Fury. My heart is saying Wilder stops him in dramatic fashion. Whether that's because Wilder gets dominated and comes back, or whether it's quite even and out of nowhere, Wilder catches Fury slipping. But like I said,
Head or heart, which one? You gotta do one.
if we were going with heart, man, I don't even like. You know what it is? A normal person wouldn't bet against Fury, but Fury himself isn't normal, so you just don't know what Fury you're getting going in. And he's been seen in that Versace robe. And listen, man, it looks good. It looks good wearing it during fight week, but there's been a lot of bigger names that's been losing and taking L's after wearing that Versace robe. So
yeah, I saw that.
It might be a sign.
I saw the comments, and they're like, out of all the times you do it on fight week, why did you need to bring out the robe now?
Listen, man, that robe might be cursed. So we'll see, man. We'll see. How about yourself? What's your prediction?
I've got Wilder 10th round.
I might have to put a bet on that.
Wilder
10 pounds.
I mean, I've just got this feeling that if he is the guy that I also believe he is,
yeah,
he can't allow himself to lose 2 out of 3 fights against the same opposition. Fair. And that's
people. If this happens, you see the socials. Give Abbas, aka the Burnley boy, his credit. If Wilder stops Fury in 10, you go and underscore the weigh-in underscore, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram, you comment there. Or you go on the weigh-in on YouTube and you comment there and you say, Abbas, you was right.
And whilst you're doing all of that, like Rhea just hit out all the socials, we also want your predictions as well. So Indeed. All the socials are right there. But again, go on our YouTube page, the weigh-in, Instagram _ the weigh-in _ Twitter _ the weigh-in _ and let us know. Let us know all your predictions. Are we crazy to think that Wilder can beat Fury? Or are we just thinking ahead of the curve? Other than that, Ray, that's our preview wrapped up. I appreciate you for coming on. Let's hope this fight lives up to the billing, and it's not one of them fights where we go in, we've waited for a big fight to appear. We had Usyk Joshua that lived up for me in terms of hype, the shock factor result. I am hoping for something like that as well.
Listen, if you want shock factor, then that's why the winning. But it will still be good to see Fury put on a boxing clinic. But like I said, it depends what Fury we're getting.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna wrap it up here again. Ray, I appreciate you for coming on. We'll be back again.
As always.
Cap the fight, and then we'll look forward to the big fights coming up. But until then, love and peace, everybody.
Take care.